Welcome to Real Talk with Felice, and I'm your host, Felice Hightower, and I'm doing public versus private versus homeschooling. Which sector do you believe better prepares our students for college? Now, I already gave you one statistic, but I don't know. I want your opinions. What do you believe? Go and navigate.
Well, I definitely believe homeschooling best prepares students for college.
Why do you say that? Why do you
And
think so?
I'd say there's a number of reasons. One is that by the time, like for all of our kids, we get into high school and they're doing it largely on their own. Sometimes they're doing some online stuff, sometimes they're going to a class here or there. With my kids, they often are working with me on my job. So they go through high school learning to juggle a job, work, school, doing this class here. And when my kids have gotten to college, suddenly not being spoon-fed by the teacher everything what to do here, every minute of the day, but suddenly having to do it all on their own and just being responsible for everything, that was no transition at all. So the transition from homeschooling to college is a much more seamless one in terms of managing your schedule.
Wow, and I thought the opposite. I thought that they were probably a little bit more sheltered and isolated from others, and so their transition would be harder into like mainstream college?
No, because typically when you go to school, you go to this class, you go to this class, you go to this class, the teacher tells you what to do, you go home, you do your homework. You go to college and they give you a syllabus and you better read that syllabus because you're going to be responsible for something in 3 days and the teacher might not tell you until you show up and don't have it.
That's right.
And so homeschoolers tend to be more used to managing things on their own and learning how to do stuff without being sort of babysat along the way.
Interesting. What do you think here?
It's for me, I think it's very important for you, if you are in a private school, to make sure that your child is navigating, especially when they get to high school, navigating their way through on their own as best as possible. Because it can become a little cocoon of, well, my teacher is gonna back to my bubble.
Back to your bubble.
The teacher is gonna let me redo it, so if I don't get a good grade, maybe I can redo it again. And that's not how it is in college.
So it sounds like homeschool is in the lead. Private school, So Connie, tell us,
So
which
for me,
sector?
I think that all sectors have the potential to help students be successful and do extremely well in college. As Paul has stated, homeschool oftentimes does offer and brings children that think outside the box. They're self-sufficient. They're self-initiating. So that's along the line of what public school values in Montessori, and because it's a lot like that concept. I feel like though, just like in public school or in private school, we also can, to Kia's point, is that we can help hold their hands and stifle their growth in any sector that causing them not to be adequately prepared. So I think it's about school choice. I think it's about, but I think it's more important that success of the level of success for our children is going to be determined by us as parents, how we parent, our involvement in it, and making sure that our children are being afforded the opportunities to grow in a way that they can think outside the box, that they can think independently, that we're giving those strategical skill sets that make them go out and know that no matter where they came from, as far as the foundation, they're prepared.
Yeah.
They're prepared to go out there and be advocates for themselves.
And that's
You mentioned that
point.
Cato College, I'd like to say that Cato College is an early college, and a lot of those kids are high school students, much like our homeschool kids. We send these kids off for early college at an early age, and they're already doing college work in high school. So they're leaving with a high school diploma. My daughter will finish up with 60 hours of college credits and a high school diploma. 60 hours that I don't have to pay for.
Amen.
So extremely, excited about those opportunities and school choices within public schools.
So I'm gonna stop you right there because you are a very involved parent. And so because you're involved, you know about the benefits of the different schools.
Right.
You know what each school is gonna offer and how to really get your biggest bang for your tax dollar buck. So I think that's key, and parents, we have to. I know we work really hard, and I know that there's so many things pulling us in different directions, but our children are investments.
Right.
And investments into our society. And so we need to make the sacrifice and do the work.
Right.
They didn't ask to come here, so let's do the work. So my next question for you is kind of, it's a couple. What are some of the challenges parents need to be aware of when considering where to educate their children? Because I know one of the misconceptions can be that with homeschooling, they might be scared that their child won't be socially diverse or as socially aware as public school children are, or even private school. Because my child was in private school, and I'll tell you, I was a helicopter mom. I managed every bit from, even when she got into college, I'm not ashamed. So, but she all right. So what I'm saying is, what are some of those challenges? Can someone who wants to address that?
Well, I can start. I think it's true. It's definitely a misconception that homeschoolers are just going to be socially awkward nerds because they don't ever talk to anybody. And if you have a big family like I do, I have 9 biological kids, and so our kids have never been, stuck alone. If you only have 1 or 2 children, one challenge would be to have more interaction with other kids. And a few years ago, maybe that was more of an issue, but now there's so many homeschoolers, there's so many co-ops, there's so many opportunities. There are homeschool football leagues, there are homeschool soccer leagues, there's homeschool baseball, there's homeschool every sport that you can think of. There's all kinds of, there's homeschool spelling bees and geography bees. And
Wow.
so there's so many opportunities. Actually, the issue now is trying to figure out which ones not to do because you're too busy going to things instead of.
So they're not gonna come out socially awkward, is what I'm hearing
No.
you say, is that they are well-rounded.
Right.
Okay. So what are some other challenges that parents need to consider when educating their children? What are some of those challenges?
Finding what is a fit for your child's personality, because when you talk about being socially awkward, that can be also a challenge within even public school. Bringing your child, starting out at kindergarten, bringing your child who may have been home with you, not really necessarily having been around a lot of children, or bringing your child to public school where you come from 9 children, and so I think that social awkwardness could come either way. So some of the other challenges, again, is aligning your child's academic needs up with the school or the school choice that you're making for them.
But now, in Charlotte Mecklenburg, and y'all forgive me out there in my viewing audience, because I know I'm tailoring it down to where I'm at, and I wanted to make it more universal. Huge.
Yes.
It's huge.
Yes.
So how does a parent even begin to start out to figure out, well, this is my child and she's really gifted in this area, what school do I choose for her? With such the magnitude of how many schools are in our system.
Easily, you find, you know your child.
Mm-hmm.
You know your child, and just like you would go out to find a pediatrician or a dentist,
I like
or
that.
if your child, if someone told you your child had a rare special need, you would seek out the best specialist to help that child. And it's the same thing with education. When preparing to educate your children, you have to start early. Almost there. My kids were infants when I was interviewing and volunteering in schools to find out what would be more what I wanted for my child. Because it started out with what I wanted for my child. But then as my children entered school or got older and I began to see their individual personalities, what was a fit for my son was not a fit for my daughter. My daughter was a great fit for the Montessori. My son could never have done Montessori.
Right.
The other was she could be placed anywhere
Right.
and she would thrive. So I think it starts out about what do we want to see for our children, then learning the individuals that they are and going out, researching, and trying to head off some of those challenges by lining up.
That's
And-
good. But what about private school? What's
And
the challenge
the
for private
challenges
school?
that I would say is, it's just like what she said, you have to know your child, because when I was seeking out, or when we were seeking out schools for Malik, because my kids are 10 years apart, when I visited some of them, some were too large, and I knew what he needed. Some were, in my opinion, not as nurturing when we went for the visits. Some were, after I did the visit, I didn't think it was a cohesive blend of diversity. So when I looked at it for Malik, I looked at it from a teacher point of view, because I'm an educator, and I looked at it from who is my child.
So I'm also going to bring this point up, because I had my child in private school her life, and my biggest challenge was affording it.
Right, and affording it is a very big challenge, just like you said in our, one of our other segments. You make sacrifices and you rob Peter to pay Paul, and I'm never gonna say that part is easy. I am not that parent who has a lot of money, and I've said that to my children as well. But for me, when I look at Providence Day School, I knew that for Malik, he was well-rounded. He was out of the box.
Does Providence Day offer scholarships? Because don't get me wrong, everybody can't
Afford it.
They can't
No.
afford
Private school,
But I do know that they do have scholarships, right?
Not at Providence Day. They don't
No?
give out scholarships. They have funding that you can apply for.
Okay.
Yeah, you can apply for funding based on your family size and all this huge paperwork that you have to do and submit. And not everybody gets that either.
Right.
But they do require you to pay at least something, because this is your choice to bring your child here. So when I had two at one time there, Jesus was my wheel, because I promise you, that's the only way. I had to stay prayed up to keep both of them there, and it was only 4 years, because when Makai started in TK, Malik was in 9th grade. So I said, okay, God, we just got 4. We just got 4. And then he'll go to college, and I'll probably be cheaper, for college than it is for, private school.
Now, what about, because I know when my daughter was in private school, there was this Walmart scholarship that they had that I was able to apply for.
And some schools do
Do
that.
they still have that?
I don't know, but I don't think that Providence Day is one of the schools that participates in that. No.
Okay.
So, like I said, they don't have like scholarships of any kind that come in or whatever, and that's the big misconception, because a lot of people, oh, but your kid goes there because they have a basketball scholarship or something, and that's a misconception. No, it's not. They don't give out basketball or track or whatever, scholarships for sports or whatever. But for me, when I chose to take Malik out of public school and put him into private school, it was because I think he needed a smaller class size. I think he needed more attention just for him versus Makai. They're polar opposites. Malik was like, "Wah!" and Makai's like, "Don't talk to me." So I think for him that was a good fit too, because it was smaller.
So it sounds like overall you start out knowing what you want for your child,
Yes.
and then you get to know your child and see what would be the best fit.
Absolutely.
And that could be across the board. Well, let me just give you this one thing. Overall rank as far as schools in the country, where do you think North Carolina came in?
Probably number 40 something.
I know we would think that, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
no. Be of good cheer.
Be of good cheer. Where are we?
19.
Woo! That's a top 20.
We're 19.
Come on
19,
with it,
number
North
19.
Carolina.
And I'm very proud of that.
But
It's a dysfunctional conjunction.
number 49 with the ACT scores.
Oh, so I was in the 40s for something.
Ooh,
ACT
yeah.
or SAT?
ACT.
ACT.
And number 49,
Awful
we're
in
the
teacher
lowest.
pay.
And we're the lowest, but hey, this is what we're number 3 when it comes to lowest bully incidence rates.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
we are really advocate for making sure anti-bullying. That's huge.
That's
I mean,
huge.
that's pretty big. And what else did I want to share with us about this? I don't know.
At least bullying doesn't happen very often in homeschool.
Right,
Though it does happen sometimes.
I'm sure.
But there's usually the principal's right there to get right on it.
Yeah.
All right, so do we have time for another question, at least one? All right, so let me ask you this. What are some other things parents should consider doing with or for their children outside of a schooling choice? What are some things as parents we need to do to make sure that our children have a really good foundation around education?
I think that we should grow their interest ourselves, because what better way to know, I can't hold a school accountable for giving my child something that I'm not exposing my child to themselves. I can't expect the school to grow my child, but for so much, if I'm not giving my child certain exposures myself. So I believe in the extracurricular activities should not just come from the school itself, but it should also come from the parents, doing things, exposing them to community service, getting them involved in different sports. So your school, you may be at a school that offers just basketball, baseball, soccer, but what about the exposure to swim, lacrosse, volleyball, cricket, things that you might not see in a traditional high school? I believe that it's imperative that we culturally grow our children in order to know and hold the schools accountable for being able to educate our children in
So exposure.
Exposure.
You
I
too?
agree with that. I agree with, having them do outside activities that involve other people, especially in private school, besides the children that they've seen all day long and since TK through high school now, and get them out there with kids on opposite sides of town. Like when Malik was in school, we lived in Mountain Island Lake, so he did Coolwood and, this area, but he went to school in South Charlotte. So he had friends in South Charlotte and he had friends in North Charlotte. So you have to give them a variety of things to do outside, like you said, of any school environment. I totally agree.
What do you think?
Well, interestingly, I don't see it as much of an either or to me, the thing about homeschooling and my whole philosophy of homeschooling is that homeschooling is a way of life. And so school isn't just a certain number of subjects, a certain time of day. So the reason I say we've been homeschooling for 27 years is because that's when our first child was born. So we didn't, he didn't start homeschooling when he was 7. He started homeschooling when he was born.
Right.
And most parents homeschool until they put their kid in preschool.
Okay.
Because you teach your kids to talk.
Right.
You teach your kids to walk, you teach your kids their ABCs and their colors and everything, and then you go and put them in school. Homeschoolers, we just continue. And not seeing education as being just a limited part, but more of, so like, if I'm keeping attendance, my kids go to school 24/7.
That's true.
They, on Sunday, they're learning their Bible curriculum and something else. And, if we're going to the zoo, it's not just a field trip, but they're learning zoology, and they're learning, and when they're little, let's make some cookies. Okay, well, we need 3 cups of sugar. Count, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh wait, it's 3.5, it's 3.5. Okay, we're time for fractions.
Right.
Now, we're not sitting down and doing math, we're living math.
I like that. So, no, I really do. That's cool. Because I was going to add my little input too, as far as what we need to do as well. I mean, when I was raising my daughter, I wouldn't let her play video games. And I was like, we're so behind in everything as a country. And I think it's because we put such a high value on entertainment.
Yeah.
And so, go outside too, what I'm saying?
Right.
Go see a flower. Go stretch your limbs instead of always being in TV. What is the best way to navigate around school assignments and redistricting?
The best way to navigate around redistricting and school assignment is to become engaged, to get involved and know the policies, procedures, and process, and hold the people who are making these decisions accountable. You should attend the school board meetings. You should attend the informational sessions. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools has an informational session coming up this week at Mallard Creek High School. And you can go to the CMS website and you can get the calendar and get the locations and the times. I highly encourage parents to get engaged in that manner so they know that's the only way to navigate around that. There's no way around to physically navigate around it other than coming to personally get involved and be a part of the process while the changes are occurring. Parents being reactive after something has occurred is less likely to make the changes that they wanted to see from the onset. So the best way to navigate around those student assignment and reassignment decisions is to become greatly involved in the process while the changes are taking place.
Good, thank you. So now what about homeschooling? How does somebody who is a working mom or a working family, but they want their children to be homeschooled, what would be some of the steps for them to do that?
Okay. Well, thankfully, North Carolina has one of the best homeschool laws in the country. It's very unrestrictive, and there are just a few basic steps to become involved in homeschooling. The homeschool law operates under the private school law, and so you're basically operating a private school in your home, and you notify the Department of Non-Public Education that you're starting a school. And there are just a few requirements. One requirement is that the parent who's most in charge of teaching has to have a high school diploma or equivalent. So that would rule some people out. However, the law does allow up to 2 families to homeschool together. And so if you're a working mom or don't have a high school education, you can get together with another friend who is able to homeschool. And I know of families where 2 families are working together. One mom is working, the other mom is homeschooling, and it's working great with them.
Wow, that's good to know.
There are a few restrictions. You're required to keep vaccination records and attendance records, although in my opinion, since they're home every day, attendance is no big deal. And you are required to have a standardized test done once a year.
Well, and this is what I found out about homeschooling. North Carolina State is considered a state with moderate regulation, which means that they require parents to send notification or achievement test scores and or professional evaluations, plus curriculum approval by state, teacher qualification of parents, or have visits by state officials. So you are right, that's what they're saying as far as North Carolina is like in the middle when it comes to homeschooling.
Right. Now, they're required to take the test. There's no minimum score on the test.
Okay.
And you don't have to send the test in. The state has the right to come visit your school at your home and see the test results. But there are so many thousands of homeschoolers in North Carolina now that
They just can't
those
get
2
to it.
employees up in the office are going to come visit you.
That's true.
I heard that colleges are moving toward a more whole individual. They're not just solely looking at math and science
English.
or standardized tests. That they want to know, is your child an athlete? Do they have extracurricular activities?
Yeah.
So how do we kind of get away from this? What do we need to do?
Well, and one thing I'm happy about is now most of the private schools, I know my kids' school is going more towards the arts. My kids are artsy. They've been doing theater since they both have been in 2nd grade. Well, kindergarten, Malik 2nd grade. And that's his passion. That's what he loves to do. And because they have that out at the school, because maybe some kids can't afford to go to Charlotte Theater and pay an extra tuition because we're paying tuition, the school has that as a part of it, and the school prides itself on the arts program. And this year, my youngest one is taking a theater class as part of the curriculum at the school. Loves it. You have theater today, Mom. I mean, not because they have a dramatic mother or anything, but he loves it, and I am so glad. And then they have a parent portion of it where parents can sit on this art, the lower school to the high school place, and the kids can be involved in that. So making them more well-rounded in the school setting as well, and offering things outside of basketball and football, like swimming and lacrosse and what's the girls do with the stick? I can't remember the name of it. Field hockey, you know, those things that they offer outside of just the norm, because every kid is not gonna be a
Right.
basketball player or a soccer player or a tennis player. You know, they wanna swim and they wanna do arts and they wanna do other things. So I think now that colleges are going towards that when they put that on their college application, I did martial arts at school, I did theater at school, I did lacrosse and field hockey and da-da-da-da, and they're like, wow, and this kid made good grades, well, look at that. You know, even if their test scores are not as high.
I don't think that we can get away from testing as a whole. I think that we're a testing society. I think the better question is, how do we get to where we don't use it as our only source of how well a child is capable of doing and performing.
Or include more into the equation that makes them a success.
Makes them a whole person. A
Right.
test doesn't make them a whole person.
It doesn't. And now I would like each of my guests, please, can you just share one takeaway you want our viewing audience and parents to know?
I would say North Carolinians have one of the best laws for homeschooling. And if you want to homeschool, you can. I think any parent who is that interested in their child's education can homeschool. Homeschooling gives you options. It gives you the ability to tailor your kids' education to their needs and their desires. I have 2 kids who went to college and 2 kids who didn't want to go to college. And now my 5th one has graduated and he's in college. And they've gone everything from having their own farm to going overseas and going to school in the UK. So you can do it. Anybody can do it.
I like that.
Well, my one takeaway would be, please show up, be an advocate for your child, especially in private school settings and any school settings. Schools can teach them to be independent thinkers, be the best they can be. They can go to college and it could be hit or miss. But if you show up for your child and you know what's going on and you know what's happening, you can help guide them through where they need to be. Show up, parents.
I am a huge public school supporter. I love our educators, and I think that we have the most phenomenal children that enter these doors each and every day. But if I had to give one takeaway, I would tell parents that it's most important and very, very important for you to connect with your schools, to get engaged, to get involved. Show up. Show up long before changes are being made, before the vote goes in. I would encourage you to find out who your school board representatives are, who your congressman or congresswoman, your parent-teacher associations and organizations in your schools. It's very important that we as parents do our part to be our children's first educators.
Well, thank you so much. I think that was some really good and powerful dialogue. I also got some really good information out of this, and I hope you did as well. So thank you so much for tuning in with me. And please, please hit me up on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I have my own website, realtalkwithfelice.com, and I'm on Facebook. So I would love to hear from you and your feedback. So tune in again, and thank you for joining me at Real Talk with Felice.